And you have any questions, uh, when each department head gets up, feel free to pull them out and we can have a discussion if you see something on there that's of concern. But I will say that I also had a discussion with President Wellenbecker today about uh, overall borough projects in terms of initiatives we started, some grants that are out there that we received information on as far as award, some partial award, some full award, and there are some still out there in the pipeline
Mhm.
that I would put together a list and some brief descriptions of each one to show you how they all tie together. Some of these parks projects, well, most of them all tie into a bigger picture that we talked about during uh, the pros plan report about how it ties into our old comprehensive plan of 2006 that will integrate parks and make a connectivity to promote more use of the parks, to promote
Mhm.
maybe outside entities
Mhm.
and individuals to come in and utilize them, and to make it uh, hopefully an economic engine for the borough, and get people better access to our creek and our waterways through future projects such as
Mhm.
we've talked about kayak launches and things like that, and fishing piers that we hope to do in the long range. So I'll put that together for you and bring that in at some point so we can all kind of keep on track what's out there, what's happening, and how they tie together.
Thank you, Ken. That will be so helpful.
Because you see there in number 7, where we just received 200 a grant of $216,250 without a match to do the waterfront trail concept down south of Susquehanna Street. AI's at work. Uh, anyway, we were very pleased
Oh.
to get that grant. That will take no borough dollars to complete that. This will all be state funds from the gaming grant funds. And then you'll see on there that we received only 75,000 of a $250,000 requested for a trail along South Union Street near the pool. And so we'll have to have some discussion of how we're going to use that portion of it since we didn't get the whole amount.
Mhm.
Um,
That's what I'm wondering.
so then there's $394,000 that we received from DCNR. We just got notice there. That was a full amount
Mhm.
we asked for. So we're really excited about that. That is the what we're now calling this what we've been calling the Swadire Crossings project. It's a nature play park where the old former pool is. Grace, is there some way you can? Oh, okay. You got somebody working on it. All right. So that's phase one. So we have phase one as far as the dollars fully earmarked for that. So we're going to be meeting with our engineer tomorrow, I think it is. I think, Matt, tomorrow, to discuss
Mm.
kicking off the design. And so we'll have more information on like how soon we can have it out there for bid
Mhm.
at our next meeting or following meeting. Um,
That's wonderful.
so some really good news. So I say, look, we had some of our local representatives help us with this and give us great letters of support. Um, we have to first thank the Middletown Interfaith group because their in-kind donation really gave us some good points to get this
Mm.
DCNR grant. They have pledged $300,000 toward this project, which is really substantial, and they are to be commended when you see those folks. Also, our state representative Tom Mahaffey and our state senator Patty Kim both went to bat for us, and actually were making calls because the things that I get back through the grapevine were these things weren't guaranteed, and they were scrambling for money at the state this
Mhm.
year. And I saw some other communities when the list came out. There were only 6 communities in Dauphin County that got funding from the gaming grant funds this year. Okay,
Mhm.
we were one of them. We got $216,000. A lot of people got zero. I mean, this covers the whole state, so it's a lot of money. But in Dauphin County, only 6 got it, And I think with the help of the people who wrote letters for us,
Mhm.
and also I think we had some really good grant writer.
Mhm.
Mary at HRG did a wonderful job, and that
Mhm.
means a lot. So we're really excited about that. This is a keystone point of this whole thing of connecting our parks together, and looking forward to possibly talking about applying again to DCNR here this spring because their deadline's in April for phase two.
Mhm.
Um, I can tell you, and we can follow up. I don't have it because this just information came in today. Sally's out today, but I just got an email today and a letter from DCED. The $128,000 that's in our bank account now that was earmarked for the homestead loan program, which has been defunct for years, and that's just been sitting there. After probably a year and a half of communication with these people, it takes a long time, and them going to the lawyers. We got a letter approving to use that towards our match money for park grant in phase
Mhm.
two. So that's good news.
That's
there.
great.
So any questions on that? Let me know. If not, we'll move on here. You can see that the Mara board has their child care coordinator is moving on to another job. So they are going to be interviewing, or have they, Jenny? I don't know. Did you go to that meeting?
We interviewed last week.
Did you? Okay. When are they expecting to have somebody on board, did they say?
They actually thought they were going to approve someone tonight at the school board meeting, but there's a holdup and there's some questions,
Okay.
so I don't know.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Can I, number two,
Mhm.
is that a rate increase of that amount?
9.35%, yeah.
Ken, I have a question. Normally at the beginning of the year, you bring up, like a special events planning,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that we could get the fireworks contractor and all those good things. Are we not discussing that?
Well, under the prior president Ian, he wanted to have that all nailed down at the beginning of the year so we could have all those dates for fireworks and tree lighting, all that taken off the docket and planned for by the first of the year. And with the changing of seats in the mayor position and all, um, we were affording the new mayor some time to think about those things. So if anybody has any thoughts or wants to discuss when we want to talk about that more, or want to talk about it now, why, just let us know.
No.
I think
Not.
the sooner the better. I mean, plan all this out.
I agree.
I think also it's our 250th, so we'll have to, it might not be business as usual if we do something for that celebration. But yes, we'll have to get on it, but that's why I think it wasn't just automatic at the beginning of the year, as it has been.
I'd like to make a motion to put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
The
Second.
next workshop meeting?
The next meeting,
What are we voting on at the next meeting?
I want to discuss the special events.
Well, the next workshop meeting, because the next meeting is a business meeting.
Apparently, as you did at the end of the year in 2025, I could discuss whatever I want.
Of course,
as long
it's
as
what
it's
I
on
did.
the meeting,
Well,
on the
that's,
agenda.
yeah, you're right. Well,
Well,
actually,
there's a
I
motion
don't
and a
even understand why
second.
there's an issue. I'm asking to discuss special events for the borough at the next meeting. I don't understand why this is suddenly a dramatic thing.
Okay,
because
we
you're
have a
making
motion.
it a dramatic thing.
Why?
Let's,
Because I want to discuss it? Don't gavel.
there's a motion and a second. So it looks like we've had some discussion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Oh,
Sorry.
no, okay, more discussion, of course.
I'd like to put it on the workshop meeting. That's when we discuss things, put it on the workshop meeting. So if you're okay with putting it on the workshop meeting, can we make the motion to put it on the workshop meeting instead of the business meeting? Because you can't vote.
No, you can't, but I'd like to discuss it because then it
Well,
could
right, so if we
it could be
discuss
set
it.
for the meeting in which we're gonna vote.
Do
I
we
would
have to
prefer to be
change
on
the,
the workshop.
if we're still under discussion, I think there's no sense to push it or rush it if we're not ready. There is some timeliness to it, because we like to look ahead. But just to say it's gotta be in 2 weeks, if that isn't when people are ready, and they're more ready in 4 weeks, that seems reasonable. It's only February. And as Ken said, to afford, Angie as the new mayor, a little time. So, do we have to vote on this motion?
Yeah, you have a motion and a second, and I don't think it's, this is more of a housekeeping thing, so I don't think it matters if it's not on the agenda. But you have a motion and a second, you should have, and sounded like the motion was specific to the next meeting,
Right,
so, I think you should take a vote on
okay,
the motion and.
I wanna just say something real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a conversation at this next meeting. Like, we're not voting on anything. I have some ideas, like, just wanna put to the table too, of some events for this coming year, so I don't think there's anything wrong with just having 2 weeks to put ideas on the table.
So just as a point of clarification on if you want to vote to decide on something, then you'd have the specific agenda item so you can have that vote. But if at the business meeting, you just want to discuss it more, you have that agenda item at the bottom called council comments and requests where we could discuss it more there as well. So, but if you want to vote on the list, is that what, the motion was, Jim, to vote on that list?
No, it's to have a discussion of special events at the next meeting.
Okay.
I mean, it's really just a housekeeping request, but you have the
I know.
structure of a motion and a second if you wanted.
And if someone wants to make another motion to do it at the workshop, then that's a separate motion. We can't just noodle this
Right,
one.
yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So this is the motion to discuss it only at the workshop,
At the next meeting,
At the
business
business
meeting.
meeting.
at the business meeting. At the next meeting is the business meeting. Okay. Grace, will you call the roll?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No.
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 No. Rachel?
I'll make a motion that we discuss it at the workshop meeting.
Second.
Motion a second. Any discussion?
What's the difference? Why are we pushing it off? I mean, I know it's just a little, but this is why government moves so slow. We can't just talk about issues.
I think it's a courtesy since there has been a precedent of the mayor having a major role. Not that that has to continue, but just out of precedent and I think out of courtesy to give a little more time. I don't think it's the government moving slowly. I think it's just getting used to a change. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. Okay, Grace, can you call the roll?
No.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
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 Yes. All right. Let's get back to the agenda. Ken, anything else?
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
9, codes. Hi, Jason.
If you look at my report here, just some standard statistics, about 50 open violations, 5 rental complaints, 8 property complaints in December. Number 3, a little accolade here, Hummelstown Borough Codes Department discovered our quick ticket program that we had created and wanted more discussion with us on how that was implemented. So we spent a good hour and a half discussing that and they're going to bring that to their council, hoping for that approval for them to use. We did it all in-house. There was no extra cost. There are no programs that we're using. It's all stuff that's being done in the codes department. So they were pleased to see something like that. A lot of software programs are out there and they cost thousands of dollars, and you're trying to recoup those costs. And we try to, if we can do it in-house, why not do it? So,
So they should be paying you for the right.
right, I need to copyright all this stuff.
But we were also there learning some things from them, weren't we?
Correct. So they returned the favor because when we go down to the next agenda items, we'll discuss that part too. For number 4, the state of Pennsylvania adopted the 2021 ICC UCC codes. So I recommend that we put that on the agenda for the business meeting so that can be adopted, and we can implement those and change it. We're currently in 2018 and we want to move into 2021. Number 5 is some of the work that we're going to propose here, and open for the discussion here, but I'll try to be as clear as I can. I've attached certain things, and this is where Hummelstown sort of returned the favor with what we had given them. Regarding short-term rentals, Airbnbs, and the like, they have implemented earned income tax, local earned income tax on short-term rentals only, just the short-term rentals, the Airbnb investors and all that stuff. Through that, they're gaining some of that income through that tax. They also implement a registration license fee of $1,000 per year, and I attached that on the fee schedule of Hummelstown there. They currently don't do short-term rental inspections. That was something that we had proposed, that we do the short-term rentals since they're commercials, they're investors, they don't live in the home necessarily, and we have people turning over on a daily or weekly, weekend basis, and they're not familiar with the home as much as a long-term rental person would be. So that might be something we want to get our foot stepped in. Their eyes opened when we proposed that, so Hummelstown may also want to do short-term rental inspections as well. But it was nice to see that we had that partnership of what they do and what we do, and sort of blend those things for our good as well. So that's something I would recommend that we consider to do, and that leads to what we had discussed at our last workshop meeting with the short-term rental inspections. We had discussed where we wanted to place them. Currently, if we remember, we're under the term commercial or residential tourist home. So that's our short-term rental term. They're permitted in C1 for commercial tourists, and by special exception, the R2 is allowed residential tourists, where the owner lives in the home and then rents it out, whether they're away for the week or the weekend, or they're still there and they're renting out the other rooms. And then by special exception, the C2 area permits commercial tourist home. So there was discussion about an overlay in the R3, which would particularly be the Pineford development, and that would also be the Oak Hills home area. And there's portions of East Roosevelt and Pine residents that would utilize that R3 area as well of an overlay. I think, based off of council, and I also would agree that we'd want to move forward with something of that nature to sort of restrict the overstepping of what short-term rentals could be, but giving that permitted use, because we legally have to permit that somewhere. So you can be as restrictive as possible, or you can be as open-ended as possible. So I would move that we do the overlay, or we move to do C1, C2, and kind of restrict it to those areas. We also have some terms that we have to clean up. Solicitor Diamond and I were going through that. So we do want to get this moving, but we're looking for council to give us the blessing to continue to do so we can do a full proposal for that.
Yeah, so I would say, I think actually the text of the ordinance, other than the where things go, which overlaps into the map, I think I'm comfortable with what we've already drafted. And most of you've seen it, you may not have remembered it, and I can recirculate it. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the zone. If you remember, there's a zoning piece, and that's cleaning up some definitions. And then it also had those new definitions feeding into, at that point, we were looking at changing where the things go. But after that, we did talk about potentially changing where the things go, and that will show up in a couple words in the text amendment. Not a big deal, but really that overlay idea, really deciding where do you want short-term rentals. And when Jason's mentioning the commercial, it's still dwellings, that's just a larger size version of short-term rental. Whether you want those or not, I don't know that we have to do that. On top of that, the whole separate piece, if you remember, we worked up, and I am comfortable that this should be about ready to go if you're willing to do the licensing and inspection. So this was the full, and if you want, I can repass copies around. And it's essentially would be ready to go as we've worked it up so far, with one little highlighted exception we'll mention probably in a couple minutes here, and that has to do with we want to clean up an old term that's in the middle of it from the zoning ordinance. Pass these around. And then we also, Jason and I have talked about, and I can get into this later, and I have a sample from another town addressing the concept of extended stay hotels. And not necessarily that we think there's going to be a big enough space in the town where they're going to come in. It's really to tighten up some issues where somebody may try to take a building that shouldn't be one and say it fits in. We have a definition in there that's essentially residential hotels. Not a definition. The word shows up in our ordinance without a definition. And we've had one case so far where we argued that, what they were trying to do was not a residential hotel, and that really had to do with the, Homewood Suites kinds of things. But I found a great example that I'd like to suggest we put in that makes it clear we're talking about a real hotel type thing with housekeeping and a lobby, all those kinds of things. So other than that, though, I think if the policy decision is made to do licensing with or without inspections, we already have the ordinance, I think, really worked out to very fine detail. Again, that's not a zoning one. Now, we would like to clean up the zoning, though, right away also. And that one, I also think the wording, the document we have is ready to go, except that we need to determine the where these things go. So we had worked that ordinance up with them all staying in the same places they are, but putting meat on trying to restrict what these things are. But I know then there was a lot of talk about maybe we don't want them in those same places, and maybe we want to just create an overlay. That's the only place they can go. And we can do that very easily, very quickly, if you guys decide here's where we're going to have these things.
A question for you, Mr. Diamond and Jason. So we have a couple things going on. One is you're recommending that we implement it left me.
Licensing.
An inspection.
Yeah.
And with that inspection, there'll be a licensing.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And this thing that you, this.
That has all of that.
That has all that, so we can implement it then.
Yeah. Now, you could skinny it down to say,
okay,
we want licensing without inspections. So this has.
I gotcha.
The licensing. Now, it doesn't have what the dollar amount of the license would be. It says that'll be set by resolution. Jason just mentioned, Humbletown, which is also a client of ours, they have 1,000 for that. I was not suggesting that you're looking at taxes of any sort on it. That would just be a licensing fee.
Okay.
We had talked before, over the many months about if we were doing inspections, how frequently, and I think we have in there a suggested cycle of every 3 years, unless like you know, did a major remodel or something that had to get inspected. That could obviously be changed to another time frame. Fairly minimal, you know, it's mostly just an IPMC inspection, you know, going in to make sure it's a code-worthy place.
Okay.
Now, we do have some standards. Again, this is, the concept is, and we define short-term rental in here as being any, and it would be a dwelling unit, one family could be renting it at any time, and it can't be more than 30 days. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't rent this, you know, if you have a short-term rental, it may be rented the entire year to different people, and some maybe, but 30 continuous days, and that, if you recall, dovetails into the hotel tax stuff for the county. That's how they define, you know, what their so they'll also have to have a hotel tax license, and they'll be paying hotel taxes. We do have some safety-related things in there that we thought made sense for, you know, people that are not familiar necessarily with the physical plant, like having a fire extinguisher, having a posting while somebody's in there on the back of the front door, the 911 address, so if they have to quick call an ambulance.
You did say it does get a rental inspection, right?
Yes,
Okay.
under this.
Okay.
Now, again, you don't have to have that. We think is a, you know, personally, I'm in favor of, if you're gonna do these, to have an inspection. It does have a concept of ingress, egress from bedrooms and things like that. If you recall, you know, there are some issues with, the, IPMC, if it, you know, if something is grandfathered, and if they're looking at old UCC things, depending on what dates they were, they may not have to have that, specific requirement. So we do have those safety-related things, and then also have some basic requirements in the application, like showing that you have insurance on the place, that you have the right number of EDUs, equivalent dwelling unit of sewage, you know, depending on how many units you're having. We do have the requirement in, if you recall, of if the owner's gotta live within 20 miles, or if they don't, then they have to get an agent, that lives within 20 miles, in case there's, you know, broken pipe, emergency, that kind, somebody that can be contacted and get there, you know, relatively quickly. If you read through this, and maybe there's, you know, obviously there's stuff that can be cut out, anything can be changed, but, you know, if you guys spend some time looking through it, I do think that one, subject to whatever you wanna change in it, is, you know, what we would recommend, and that could move, you know, essentially immediately. But we ought to, the zoning thing can also move almost immediately if you just decide where you want them.
So, Mr. Diamond, another, before we do anything with this, you're saying we should first identify the areas that we want these units.
Yeah, I mean, we could as a Band-Aid, because I know Jason has some concerns based on the zoning hearing board's last decision, that we ought to button up some things in the zoning ordinance no matter what. What I had drafted would do that, but it would keep them right where they're allowed to be right now. And we could even do that in the interim and then down the road change it. But if there's ideas of where to constrain these things going forward, we ought to do it now, because it only, you know, we can do it with one advertisement. I have to change like 20 words in the text, and then we'd have to draw something. We would have HRG actually, you know, would draw something with marker on the map, and then they make it official.
I got you.
But, you know, the longer it sits not being addressed, the more possibility that we're not really controlling short-term rentals the way you want to control them. And it's, you know, I think it makes sense to move this forward. And
Yeah, what I recall from our last conversation, I think Mayor Curry and Rochelle, I think two that I remember being on board with this. I think you two seem to be more in line with an overlay, like Mr. Diamond first, or
yeah, and I think Jason
notice,
drew
like,
up. I don't know. Did you hand out? I know he
At the
played
last-
with
At the last
trying to capture
meeting,
the idea of
I
an overlay.
created a sort
Yeah,
of,
was that circulated to the?
not at this meeting
Oh,
here.
okay.
But it didn't have an overlay. That's what prompted the,
Yeah,
um,
so that concept we could write up. Now, we would be amending the current zoning ordinance to delete from the permitted uses and the special exception uses from the places where they are. That's a couple sentences. And then we would be saying these are permitted in the overlay, we'll make up a name like short-term rental overlay district or something like that. And it's not really, I'm saying district, it's still the underlying district. So, let's say you were R2 or whatever it is, you can always do anything you can do in R2. And then there can be a subset, part of that can even be in a different kind of district. And you're saying you're allowed to also do this short-term rental where usually it's a hash mark looking island essentially.
What's R3?
R3 is multi-unit residential, but also with, commercial unit apartments. So that's why Oak Hills Nursing Home and all that stuff are able to have theirs, and then Pineford's in that R3 as well. It fits their use.
We discussed,
Yeah,
if you leave it C2,
C2.
as it is special exception now, it's pretty widespread throughout the borough, C2.
Yeah.
What is Jason asking for this to be on the next meeting to vote to advertise?
I think we're at a point where we're ready with these documents. We just have to determine the district where we're gonna.
Yeah, or draw I think what we ought to do is, because this could extend forever, is at the next meeting, or even, at least, we don't need action tonight, but talk about, because we can prepare to bring to any meeting, even the next meeting, I think, pretty quickly. Here's the map of what it would look like.
Right.
And I think you guys are aware, legally, we can't do what's called spot zoning, so we can't just do it over one property. But, it doesn't have to be a lot more than one property if it's a reasonable size thing.
I would renew my interest in doing the Pineford area.
Yeah, and you had a couple other specific things I think you were mentioning at the meeting.
I don't have the map with me, but it was, I think, above it.
Yeah, if you even want to just hand draw for now, just internal and pass it around to everybody, I think, that's enough, or that's.
Yeah,
but
you wanted the
conceptually-
R3, which would also include the R3 up above as well.
I
Well,
might just note that thank you, Counselor Lister, for slowing it down and asking for clarification. I'm like, I think we're talking about three different things here at the same time. So thank you for that. If we are talking just about step one is the overlay, could we have copies of that, especially if there's some new folks,
Yes,
to spend some time
I was
at the next
debating on whether
I
to
know,
give you
I know. I know, we're
map.
just trying to,
Can we put on the agenda, is this something we could put on the agenda for next session to vote on, or?
yeah, or at
well,
least,
I think Jason and I thought we were gonna really talk through it pretty deeply tonight.
but without the
because-
overlay, it's
yeah.
a little difficult for us to talk with
Sort of yes
you.
and sort of no, because they are three bundled things. I think though the rules ought to apply no matter where you're gonna have them. The overlay is a very important thing, but that one, I think you still can look through these rules. Yeah, so the rules have, and it's kind of funny, so this set of rules, generally, you can make sense of it by reading it by itself. The zoning ordinance, it's, because that's a whole big book, and whenever we're doing amendment, we're taking this paragraph out here, these words out there. It's a little harder for you to follow, but it's more technical legal stuff, I guess I'd say on this one. Trust us, we're just tightening up the definitions, and we'll walk you through those, but this is the comprehensive beginning to end, standalone chapter, other than starts off with the background, whereas this, whereas that. But once you get to section 1, if you read it, that's exactly how it will look in the book, this Article 2 of this document. And it even has what the section numbers would be, because this will be a new part of the chapter 219, which is about housing.
For example, one of the rules in there, on page 5, item number 4 says, if you're gonna have a short-term rental unit, you're gonna have to provide, floor plans. So if they don't, somebody's doing that now, and they don't have any floor plans drawn up,
Mm-hmm.
they'll have to draw them up to get the license. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why
and-
Jim thought we'd talk about some of these rules to see
Yeah.
if there's any issues.
And now, I guess we gotta be clear too, so we're not necessarily saying, and some of it will depend, what Jason, sitting at the desk, what's making sense. So, if someone has pretty nicely hand-drawn things with, real scale to it and everything, this isn't a code thing in the sense, like UCC, that we need a seal,
Engineer
somebody
drawings.
just like, here's an old plan I have and I'm just telling you this is the kitchen or whatever.
Right.
So there's gonna be some latitude and some, shaking out, but right now we have no regulations. So it's not intended to be the same thing as like going through a land development plan and, it really is just, here's the basics of, what we have there and,
How many of these do we have in the borough? Do we know?
we don't know, I don't think.
Not officially, but
Yeah.
there are, I think, like 5 or 6 legal short-term rentals.
And where are they located? Like,
Our
on there?
Main Street, Roosevelt, there's one on Roosevelt from a while ago. Mostly Main Street, and then there's one on Roosevelt.
Would they be grandfathered in? If we
Yes.
changed
Not yes and no, so
I was gonna say.
zoning wise,
Right.
yeah, so, let me
As it
clarify
stands.
something. So, zoning wise, and one of the other things we are also doing, we're focused on the short-term rental, but we've also cleaned up and tightened up in the proposed zoning piece, some definitions about bed and breakfast. And bed and breakfast versus what you think of as Airbnb are different in that bed and breakfast should really assume that the homeowner or somebody, representative of somebody who owns the home, are in that dwelling the same time the guests are. Short-term rentals, you're assuming the opposite, so they really are different concepts. So we tried to tighten up some of those things also in the zoning. So zoning, you may recall, if you've been on the board, at least, and Chrissy, this may be new, but in zoning specifically, there's a real grandfathering concept. We'll use the legal term as non-conforming, which really means a legal pre-existing non-conforming use. And what that means is this use was lawfully started before the zoning ordinance said you can't do this here. So if you've started it legally and it's really established, you can continue that on even after the ordinance. Now, when we do this concept, though, the licensing, they're not grandfathered. They
Right.
will have to get
Right.
licensed. They will have to go through these things. They
Just the
will have to.
location.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. It's not a MPC, Municipalities Planning Code ordinance. This is a police powers ordinance. So there are some pieces where they are, if they're already there, they're, generally going to be there. They may need to add fire extinguishers, do various things in this. But,
Right.
yeah, generally, the zoning, given that there was a recent zoning hearing board decision that I know Jason thinks opened up some holes, we think we want to address it sooner rather than later on the zoning side. And now's the time to really give some thought to this.
One of my issues with any of this, and I know we have to have it in the borough. For instance, like Oak Hills, if you want to put it in Oak Hills, and you have 4 of them in Oak Hills, are people really vetting and checking who they're renting to?
Yeah.
So you have a park in Oak Hills, and the house next to the park is one of these, and they rent to a pedophile. Now you have a pedophile renting for a week, 2 weeks, a month, beside there, and nobody knows.
Mhm.
It's just my,
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to allow
Makes
some,
sense.
right?
Yeah, we have to, so.
I understand you
Yeah.
have to allow some,
Yeah.
but if you put an SVP in there, you have to notify the borough. And some don't.
Yeah.
So you have transient, we already say we're an 88% rental, but now you have true transients coming through because it's a week to week or a day to day. So you don't know who's coming into your borough.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
it is
think you
the
can control.
equivalent of a
I know,
hotel.
I'm just saying.
I
this is my-
understand you don't, but,
Yeah.
so to move this forward so we can continue
Yes,
He wants
with the meeting,
I'll pass it again.
remind me again.
I'm sorry.
So step one, you would like us to give some consensus around that map,
Mhm.
but we haven't seen that map.
Mhm.
We're passing it around, but it doesn't.
Mhm.
So is there a way that
Yeah, you can
it could be
email
sent
Yeah.
to us?
I can email you everything tomorrow.
We got
that way-
Isn't that the same map from the last meeting?
It is the exact same map, but some people weren't on council at the
Yeah,
time.
I
Right.
don't have.
So
Or
I-
you could
I'll-
even draw your own, you
Yeah.
could also send a blank map and somebody.
Yeah.
Or you could put them in
So if you
districts or
can just
keep 'em in
send them
districts,
back,
yeah.
so if you could send everyone, and then if we're gonna move this to next business meeting agenda, at that time, we could address that, correct?
So what I was proposing after this discussion here is I have two maps. One is the blank zoning map. I'm going to give you that, and then also the one I kind of gave some ideas of locations where Giant is and all that stuff, so everyone has references.
Good.
Then what you can do is sort of look where the overlays were proposed with the R3s and where you can see where the C1s and the C2s are. And
Okay.
see how that all fits together. And then we can have a discussion at the next workshop meeting where we would hopefully want to move forward with those. At this one, I think if we can, this was passed around, I know there's new council, so if we can also do the same thing with what is written with the legal terms, we can start to move forward with
Good.
that as well. The goal, as Solicitor Diamond was saying, is if we could get the verbiage locked in, we're good, and then we can discuss the overlays or the locations with that, and then pass it all in
Thank
one
you.
package.
Who's
Okay.
doing the inspections? Who's
Mhm.
doing the inspections?
So right now would be our third-party inspection, Commonwealth Codes.
And do we know how much they would charge us?
I have a fee schedule, what they sent from back in 2024, but I'll have to get a update on that, because I'm sure that fee has changed.
Yeah, and so we would, there are two ways you normally slice those. One is you build the license fee to cover
Right.
the other is having a annual license fee, and then when it's your turn to get inspected, you actually pay an inspection fee. I think it's better to spread out, do the license fee, scale to capture that, and then, the landlord isn't getting hit with every 3 years like a big fee. It's, so, yeah, and that is some trial and error of,
Mhm.
what's it gonna be, and that's why we're having it by resolution too, that, you do it in your annual, yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Jason, the inspection fee is paid by the landlord directly to Commonwealth Case.
Correct.
No. So I guess what I'm suggesting is we scale the annual license fee
To cover it.
to capture, let's say, a third's worth of the cost of inspection,
Okay.
so that the landlord isn't paying an inspection
Mhm.
fee, they're paying a higher annual fee that will cover the inspection fee, but it's gotta spread out over 3 years, 'cause
Mhm.
we're only gonna, and maybe it even moves to 4 years, that's not an uncommon time frame.
Mm.
Once it's been up and running, and if you're not having problems, and,
Oh, so we collect the fee.
yeah, that's how I would suggest doing it, have the fee come in.
Well, Jim,
the-
let's make sure Rochelle's not confusing short-term rental program with the rental inspection program we talked about.
Oh, no, so I'm sorry, this,
That might be where she's getting that.
yeah, this is the short-term rental inspection I'm
okay.
talking about.
Alright.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's,
Mhm.
Yeah, because a few years ago, we were implementing the long-term rental inspection, and that was how the setup would've
yeah, and in fact, one of the things that's kind of buried in the zoning one, I'm sorry, not in the zoning, so, um, for rentals generally, we've had a requirement, that would sort of duplicate some of this, about registering and reporting, landlord reporting. I know it's not followed by a lot of landlords. So in here, we actually said, because there's separate reporting kind of things for the short-term rental, we're also amending, um, section 219-3 that already exists, saying
Okay.
that the information required for those generally does not apply to the short-term rentals, because they're gonna be doing, their own reporting under this.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm sorry,
It's
I meant,
okay.
what I was talking about was specifically this short-term rental license
That makes
concept.
sense. Okay.
So then, just to wrap up, the document says concept draft 2 is the comprehensive rules,
Mhm.
and you'd like us to review these for next business meeting. This document that says draft
Yeah,
is addressing the legal terms.
Yeah, so this is this draft one,
I didn't get that.
yeah,
Yeah, we didn't get that.
We only
you
got,
know what, I guess I didn't,
we
yeah.
only got the ordinance
We only
thing.
Yeah,
got the
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
yeah, and I guess,
What's the draft?
Does you have this one?
yeah,
No.
We didn't get that.
We didn't get that one.
yeah, so,
No, we don't
Here's
have
an
that
extra
one.
some of them made it one way and some, so that's the zoning one,
Okay.
Right.
okay? And that one, this is changing the zoning stuff, but you'll see, it has the old
I got you.
references to, we were just changing the terms where they already
Yes.
existed. And now we're talking about saying,
Great.
taking that out and moving it elsewhere potentially.
Okay.
So they work together.
Yeah, they work together.
Together, gotcha.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, quite frankly, the licensing thing could go by itself, but it would make sense to do them both together.
Jim, do you have an extra one that says draft?
You have two more?
Yeah,
Okay.
guessing, wait a minute, here's something,
And we'll get the map and we'll be ready for next meeting.
there's two more.
Yep.
Great.
You need two more.
Excuse me, are you voting on this next meeting? This
No,
map?
so, yeah, let me also back up. The zoning piece, if you remember, yeah, so zoning ordinance amendments have to go through a major process. What I'm hoping to do is corral it so we think we're happy with it. It then has to go for 30 days. It goes to the local planning commission, goes to the county planning commission. We advertise it for a public hearing. We get all the input, and there may be a lot of people here, because this is the kind of topic that might draw out, a lot of interested people. Then you may make changes. If we make a major change, then we have to re-advertise it. We don't have to stretch it out we don't have to send it back to planning commissions, but we'd have to re-advertise it for another night, for changing the written ordinance. And that's for the zoning piece. Now, like I said, I think it makes sense to keep these in lockstep. The other one actually can move real fast. It's not an MPC ordinance. We have to advertise it once, not more than 60, not less than 7 days before we take action on it. We'd have to hear the public comment on that. That one could get adopted without, as much fanfare officially. I expect they're all gonna wrap together. We're gonna have all the public comment, everybody talking about the thing as a whole, as it should be. I think it's a holistic approach to it. But yeah, well, there won't be any, action on it. It's really, but I also think we don't wanna have it be, a work in progress for a year and then,
No.
you know,
No, we know that you've been working on this and we don't want to delay it. Just trying to confirm that we don't vote on it. We just say, yes, we understand it, to move it forward
yeah,
through
and
this.
you may say, when you're looking through, so we try to address, here's what goes in the application, here's what the physical plant should be like, all those things, and you may say, we're not doing that, and just, put a circle around. I think we ought to, and, the majority says, yeah, we're not doing that. I don't think we care too much what the details are, and we can discuss why we put some of them in, but if you say,
Okay.
we don't want that, or we think that's too heavy-handed, or,
Well, thank you both very much,
Yeah.
very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together, me and Jason.
Yeah.
Angie has questions on it?
I'm done. I had,
It- Did it, Angie?
Hmm?
Did it answer your
yeah,
question?
yeah.
Mayor Lloyd.
So, let me hand these out too. I don't remember if I gave these out before. Now, this is the sample that while we're amending the zoning ordinance, I wouldn't mind throwing in. This is the extended, stay hotel stuff. Enough to go
Thank
around
you.
there. Particularly good. Now, it's kind of funny because we were arguing these things in a zoning hearing case in order to stop somebody, we thought, taking something that was not, a hotel at all or extended hotel, that they want to do, kind of student housing dormitory type thing and trying to say this is a residential hotel, and for all these reasons we were saying this isn't a hotel and it's not a residential hotel, and that was intended in my mind to mean the extended stay or, Homewood Suites kind of thing. And I stumbled into this, it's from out near Pittsburgh, but it's almost all the things we were arguing, are implied by the hotel thing. And you'll see they have in there that, if it's gonna be extended, stay hotel, at least those rooms, now you could have non-extended and extended, they have to have cooking facilities but it still has to be hotel enough that, there's housekeeping service, that there are, common entries and, lobby type things or locking, doors and,
Is
so it
there
has a lot of
another
specific.
document you have for us? Or is this?
Yeah,
now-
it's this one that says,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
we have
from
3
South
documents.
Fayette, yes.
And we're waiting for one map.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions?
Mr.
Counselor Lister, let's clarify it.
Let's
Wrap it up.
clarify it.
Send it home.
Does this expand upon what you wrote in here about a residential hotel?
Yeah, I just highlighted that because those words will change
Okay.
if we drop in that other thing also. So we can, what I often would do with the zoning ordinance, I would also add it into the same thing. We're also, in that top part where it says we're doing all this stuff about these things, would also say, and adopting additional rules for extended stay hotels in lieu of residential hotels.
I'm good.
All right.
Anything else?
Looking at letter B here, another zoning recommendation for some revision. Looking at 260-186, I also attached that and highlighted B1. The 1 is highlighted. It states that an existing single-family detached, semi-detached, all those may be converted to contain additional dwelling units, but shall have a total of no more than 4, each containing no more than 1 family. This sort of opens it up to an interpretation of where do these get permitted. There's an interpretation that this could be anywhere in the borough that has these types of homes, and you can have 4 units in a single-family home put into that footprint. R2 and R3 specify a little bit more detail, as I have listed in the letter B here, where R3 has 260-71.86, where all of 186 is permitted, but in R2, it says in 260-62.A that just A is permitted. So just the first part of A, not B, is permitted. So there's some piecemeal going on that leads to some potential loopholes that we want to tighten these things up so that there's no confusion, no misinterpretations, and we're certain with where we want to put these conversion apartments.
Yeah, the upshot is there's an ambiguity in our ordinance, and Jason was processing something and ran into it. And it seems like the intent back, when the ordinance was drafted was to, contain apartments to certain areas and have them follow certain rules. And then there's some loose language elsewhere about conversion apartments, and it seems to be saying, you know, you can do a conversion apartment in all districts, and then it's, you know, says if you meet these couple things and it's unclear, like, well, wait a minute, don't you have to have off-street parking, don't you have, you know, this, that. So, he caught a, you know, real-world analysis of, wait, I don't like this, you know, so that's technical correction that we feel strongly ought to be done too at this time. We can throw that in, or, you know,
Do you have any language for it?
yeah, we were just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll discuss that and bring
we
that
can put that in
forward.
front of you.
We're just right now letting you
Yeah,
know
it's more
this
of
is what we're
cleaning
looking
up
to do.
the loose language in the conversion apartment wording
Mhm.
that, you know.
Alright.
And then, any questions or discussion with that one? Looking at letter C, another just cleanup here. 260-205.A, where it talks about applications for special exception uses. It includes having the planning commission, it states committee, but planning commission to review the special exceptions. And I recommend that we just leave that to the zoning hearing board decisions to make. That way it doesn't lead to some interpretations of.
Yeah, and that's something
one-
so it's unique to South Central PA. Somebody in the 90s was putting these in ordinances here. And a lot of towns I represent, I've had them talk them into taking it out. And it says special exceptions, and some say conditional uses, get reviewed by the planning commission before they go to the zoning hearing board. And, you know, I've seen some places where that creates timing issues because under the MPC you have to have your first hearing within a certain amount of time. But it also always struck me as sort of inappropriate because the theory of the zoning hearing board and what they're doing is they're an independent court essentially. So there really shouldn't be other proceedings going on and people making recommendations from other places. Not like a land development plan. It is common in Central PA, less common, you know, I argue that they can't serve any real function because they, you know, but it's also a weird thing. Like, how is there a commission that's making recommendations to the zoning hearing board? Zoning hearing board should really be doing everything on the record, people under oath being cross-examined, not having a tangent out there with this other. I'm sure somebody, you know, thought it was a great idea. I don't see the merit in it and wasting the planning commission's time. And, you know, it's kind of funny too. The applicant, or, you know, they have to sort of come to another proceeding, but they really don't have any clear rights there. And it's just a. So I agree with Jason. We ought to
Clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Speed it up, clean it up.
Had some towns though, where they like it, they keep it.
But also, you know, it can create some air of inappropriateness with some people too, when you have, say in some communities, like this one says committee, they might have council people sitting on the planning committee, and council people really shouldn't be saying too much about zoning issues. I think when.
Well, they can, and you know, council could even come in and oppose it and all that kind of stuff, but it's just, it's weird, and it puts the applicant in a weird position of, you know, shouldn't even have to show up. If I don't show up, is everybody, you know, thinking I don't care about it or they're mad at me? I don't know. It's just I don't like it, and I don't see, but I have seen it cause problems timing wise.
It did here some years ago. I don't know if you remember, Jim. Somebody got approval, a go-ahead letter from the planning commission and the zoning hearing board. I forget what it was, turned it down, and that created some bad blood with the applicant.
I don't remember what it was.
You kind of remember
Yeah,
that?
but I don't remember the.
Yeah. And you can get a lot of confusion where somebody's like, okay, I got big approval here, and it's meaning they have no power to, only the zoning hearing board
Might have been them.
can grant a special exception, so.
Okay, thank you. Next, Jason?
So letter D, we're looking to stop a loophole that's forming for whatever reason that's creating some on-street parking issues. Landlords are charging separate fees for their off-street parking lots to their tenants. So if they're paying $1,000 a month for their rent, for an extra $50 you can have off-street parking. While they're choosing not to pay that $50 and they're parking on the street. So we would like to create that out of the ambiguity and say that that off-street parking is for all tenants. If they want to include it in their rent without the fees, the hidden fees, so to speak, that's their right to do so, but to make it an option just creates issues with the on-street parking issues we already have.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've never seen a zoning ordinance I can remember that actually addressed that, but when Jason brought it up, it's an interesting, peculiar thing.
Good.
So, as you know, we can never legislate that people can't park out on the street. And there are situations where they think, well, it's more convenient for me to park on the street than it is in here, but it is almost inconsistent with the intent that, the reason you have to have these off-street parking is so there's parking there, but you kind of in essence, you're prohibiting the tenant from parking there unless they pay extra money. So are you really supplying that off-street parking for that use?
Right.
Which is a required.
But it is a strange,
Yeah.
and I don't know that it'll go through without, somebody figuring out a way to challenge it or something. And
Yeah, we already had that discussion with a landlord in town who came in and spoke about that back when Mr. Reddinger was president. There was a debate in here about that subject.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Next.
And then E is our last of the zoning revisions, and that was Solicitor Diamond's concerns here. He recommended that we try to use language to prevent non-conforming shifts onto other non-conforming uses in our zoning.
So here's my view of non-conformities, grandfathered uses, and, it's a peculiar area of Pennsylvania zoning law, and more anti-municipality or anti-control than any other state I'm aware of. So before you put rules in, and you can put rules in to expand what's called natural expansion doctrine rights, there are certain rights inherent, they're kind of constitutionally driven as far as the courts are concerned, of what you can do with non-conforming uses and when are they abandoned and lost and things like that. The one thing you don't have a right to do at all naturally under Pennsylvania law, unless you add something in your ordinance, is to take a grandfathered use and replace it with another non-conforming use. And a lot of the ordinance, it's not that common to have that, and they say if it's no more intensive of a use or something like that. That's out of control in my mind, number one. Number two, it's not even advancing the concepts of grandfathering and why they're there. So the reason there was grandfathering was that somebody's invested in this property for this thing. Now it's become unlawful. I've had a gas station here lawfully put in for 30 years, and all of a sudden you now say this is a residential neighborhood, no gas stations. I should be allowed to continue that business. I've invested in it, and I should be able, not just till it wears out, but I should be able to keep fixing it up, and, but it doesn't mean, the theory though is you run these things until they're no longer viable, and, once the thing has run its life, and you tear it down, and I'm not going to use a gas station anymore, okay, now you got to follow the rules. But this allows you to keep rebooting into something else and something else. Like now I'm putting a donut shop in here. It's not, allowed, it's not conforming with your law, but you have in the ordinance, I can come in and switch out one non-conforming use for another. That's way more than is necessary to protect anybody's interests or, but it gets out of control. And it also, something that, maybe a Blockbuster or something is going to go, disappear or whatever, and now it's going to be a restaurant. And I'm just a believer in, the non-conforming rights out there in Pennsylvania law are so powerful in favor of the owner, and they're also very hard to control because the owner often has monopoly on the knowledge. Like, oh, I've been building motorcycles in my basement, nobody, for the last 30 years. And you're kind of on the outside looking in when you're fighting over these cases in the zoning hearing board or in court. That whole idea of we're empowering people to change,
Uses.
Yeah, and I'm not saying so the uses are still fairly broadly interpreted. So, I'm saying Blockbuster, that's a retail store, and yeah, it could be a flower store, it could be but it shouldn't turn into a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like crippling, it's the natural, so the natural expansion doctrine in Pennsylvania, you can modernize things, you can bring in new processes, there's lots of stuff as a matter of law can do. We shouldn't add on, although a lot of towns do. I think it's a really wide open, dangerous thing to say you can replace, one
Yeah. Okay,
nonconformity with another.
good.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. Any questions on? the
No.
agenda? All right.
Number 10, electric. Rob.
Good evening. Been continuing with the infrastructure out at Woodland Hills. We also replaced some fixtures down at the MCSO entrance and some in the EMA area. We removed the Christmas tree, overhead decorations, and pole wrap decorations. Number 16, if there's no objections, we'd like to purchase signs for each substation, similar to the existing gateway signs, and it will say Middletown Borough Electric, Spruce Street Substation, a public power community, and founded in 1893. Spruce Street update is substantially complete with a few minor punch list items remaining. As you heard from Ken, there's a time extension, mainly for NETA testing and SCADA system, and then a change order for the automated pumps. Number 19, 4 outages, 3 squirrel contact, and a tree branch down 3-phase primary during one of those windy days last month. And the action item was already approved. Any questions?
I have something. So on Sydney's report coming up, you'll notice that there is a balance in the mayor's Christmas ornament sale account. That was money that I raised last year because we did not have enough funds to order all of the pole wraps for all the historic poles. This is the perfect time of year to contact Riley's because it's post-Christmas, so that's when you have the best sales. So I would ask that Rob call them and have a number for us. How many more do you need? Do you know?
I'd have to count.
And get a quote so that we could discuss that at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Can do that.
Thank you.
Is that good, or do I need to make a motion?
I think we're okay.
We're okay?
We're okay.
All right.
Thanks for double checking.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Number 11, finance.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I don't have anything special in my report tonight. So if you guys have any questions or any questions about our goals for 2026, sorry.
Sydney, I think we should let them all know that we're sending a letter out to about, 150 accounts, electric accounts?
Yeah, so
Glitch.
we had a bit of a technical issue with our third-party billing software that we use, and residents that are enrolled in the budget billing program, where they have an average monthly payment throughout the 12 months, usually that gets settled in April, so any credit balance that they have gets applied to their account, or any debit that they have gets applied to their account. With that error, the settlement occurred on this previous billing cycle for 2 out of our 4 billing cycles. We anticipate it's going to happen for the next 2 billing cycles. We've been working with our billing software to try to figure out how the issue occurred, but on their end, they can't see anywhere that this settlement was initiated. So we're gonna continue working on them with that, but we do plan on sending out letters to the 150 residents that are enrolled in that plan, just to make them aware of what happened, and that it was reflected on their most current bill.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 13, Highway. Hi, Matt.
Skipped one.
12, fire department.
Oh, what is with me tonight? I'm not counting, and Jim, pardon me.
You're in a hurry to get out of here or something. What movies?
Counting. Math. Good, thank you. Thanks, Dawn.
Good evening.
Good
I
evening.
apologize for laying this report on your desk. I planned on having this sent to you either by email or snail mail, but I've got some family issues that superseded it. The line item expense report is attached for 2025. The department purchased or anticipated in the following capital projects: the HVAC replacement, the total cost $138,650. The DCED grant was $112,000. The department paid $24,550 as our share of that grant. We had several other capital purchases. One was a used scissors lift for building maintenance, and the change from Comcast to Verizon Fios, our telephone system was not compatible, and we had some other upgrades that needed done, and that was in the amount of $15,882. The 2025 borough contribution to fire department operations and maintenance was $169,665. Our total expenses, as shown on the line item, was $223,983. The department paid $54,318 in expenses from our general fund that are normally and customarily paid for out of the borough contribution. So our total outlay with capital projects and supplementing the O&M portion of the budget was $98,100. Significant expenses, in addition to the capital, was vehicle maintenance, inspection, and repairs, unanticipated mechanical failures, our insurance premiums, and workman's compensation premium. The tentative fundraising schedule is attached, and additionally we'll do some other smaller ones, the annual mailer fundraiser, the annual sportsman's raffle, and the election day soup and dumpling sales. A couple side items here. During 2025, the IRS changed our tax designation to a 501c3, of which it makes us eligible for some additional grants that we were not eligible for as a C4. If you follow any of the media, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri and Andy Kim from New Jersey subpoenaed the 3 large fire apparatus manufacturers to a hearing where they tried to justify the continuing cost of fire apparatus. To have the one individual, I don't know if he was in shock or if he was totally unprepared, but for someone to come from a multi-million-dollar profited corporation, this gentleman, he flamed out. The other thing, and I talked to you folks about this 2 or 3 times since 2024, is the OSHA standard for emergency response. And I understand that we are not an OSHA state. However, it's going to affect us. From what I can determine from people who are in the know, there is a major conflict between the career service and the volunteer service on how this is going to be implemented and the cost to do it. They've been at this since February of 2024. and as of standing here speaking to you tonight, they've not come to a resolve. So that's where we are at the moment. Questions?
What do you mean you said the guy like fizzled out on the stand? What he just couldn't? What do you mean by that?
Hollings tore him up. He was not prepared to substantiate how, since COVID, apparatus costs have increased 30, 40-fold. And obviously I'm interested, but Hollings did a good job.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Jim, do you know your 2025 fundraising total?
I do not.
Is that something you could get?
Because of the gap between fundraising totals and fundraising and capital needs, we're not going to discuss that in public. There has been a discussion, I think, with some members of the council about having a information session where we will do that. But this is being recorded, and if I tell you we made $1 million, the people that donate are gonna want to know what we're going to do with that money. We will be more than happy to have you come to our office, and we'll tell you everything you want to know. That's policy that the department enacted back in September, I think it was.
All right, you're gonna have to report it on your return anyway as a 501c3.
That's public knowledge. You can go online and look at it.
So what does it matter if it's online or if it's at a meeting?
Looking at numbers doesn't justify our capital needs.
I understand that. You've laid it out very well, what your challenges were this year. I'm merely asking how much did the department raise?
I honestly don't know. I don't have a total. And again, I would invite, and we are going to also invite Royalton. I understand the sunshine law. I don't know how we get around that, but if people want to come 3 at a time, we will go through it line, chapter, and verse. And I don't think that's asking too much of us. I don't see how we can be any more open.
I think that's a pretty standard question. That's my opinion. Especially now that your designation has changed.
Yes, ma'am.
The Cuppies fundraiser, has that been rescheduled?
May 30th.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else for the fire department? Thank you.
Thank you.
13, highway.
Good evening again.
Thank you, Matt.
No problem. Not really much exciting on my report here. Staff's been doing some interior things downstairs here to prepare for the tax collector person and to separate some of the EMA area from the various users, Senator Kim's representative and also the community aid person who comes. So it's kind of we installed a doorway and partial wall down there to keep them separate. Veolia has some excess fill. We're going to continue with the pool backfilling once their schedule and my schedule and the weather schedule all cooperate so that we can finish that off down there. We did put the upcoming park sign like we had over here at Overdeer. That's been installed at Fry. So people.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure. People who are out roaming in that area will be able to see the rendering and see what it looks like. Try and generate some interest there, some excitement.
When do you think the same could be done for I don't know, we don't have a working title that we've confirmed, but we'll call it canal crossings or When do you think you'd be ready? I know you have a meeting tomorrow to do a similar sign, uh, or just put one up. You know to do it whenever there's enough detail that you can mount a sign. But that would be great.
Yeah, I think since we were so successful with the funding, I can take a look at the rendering we have and see that because with the funding that we had, we didn't have to shuffle around much out of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll take a look at the renderings and, we should be able to get a sign up
Whenever you
sometime
think it's
soon,
yeah.
once we can dig in the ground a little bit easier.
Yes, that's right. Once you can put a sign in the ground, yeah.
It's gonna be a
Then
little
there's
brutal
that.
for the next 2 weeks to install a sign
Right.
without the backhoe. As a follow-up, do have a purchase order issued for the speakers and the, audio improvements in here. I will follow up with the vendor tomorrow and, try and get a scheduled date for them. I met with a contractor this morning for, improvements downstairs that the finance, folks have been asking about for a while. So should be about 4 weeks or so, and we should have a design and an estimate for that, and then we'll go from there.
On that matter, Matt, we have money budgeted for that
Doing it right now.
renovation downstairs
Mm.
in the finance office.
Mhm.
Yep. So we're moving forward with it.
Okay.
And before we get off that, Matt, you talked about Swadire Crossings. Since we are meeting with HRG tomorrow, and that means we're gonna be getting design kicked off and plans will be made up. We wanna remember to talk about and decide on what we wanna call that down there. Because remember we talked before about Swadire Crossings, that's kind of a common name because back over on 322, I guess it is, there's a shopping center called Swadire Crossings.
There's a mall.
And I don't know if you recall, I know during the committee meetings of the parks, and I think I told most of you probably heard this by now, we kicked around various names, and one of the thoughts was the theme down there, since that area where that park's gone is where the Pennsylvania Union Canal met up in a big like dock area, that we might name it something like Canal Park. But
Mhm.
at some point, the engineer wanted to know what are we going to put on what do they call it, the legend for these maps they're drawing up. They're going to put names on it. So we want to think about that. There was an aqueduct bridge. There was a standing. I don't know where the locks were specifically, but they're what we used to call the commons right across the street from the pool was a big playground when I was a kid. But before I was born, that was where they unloaded their boats, their
Right.
canal
Right.
boats and stuff. So we would kind of try to tie that theme in with the
Yeah.
old what we call the old fort down there. Jenny has what's the other name for that? The old fort. I forget what we call it, but there's
I call it the Ferry House.
the ferry house. Okay,
Oh,
that's what I was trying to think of
because
because that is listed, I think, in the historic document somewhere as the oldest ferry house in Dauphin County.
Huh.
So when we start naming this park and then building this park, um, the Greenways Trail that we went for that said, report here we got $75,000 for. We asked for $250,000. We only got 75. But that was going to be trails in phase 2, the trail portion, and we were going to extend that past the historical society's buildings there, and we got their permission to do that. So we're talking about with this whole park thing, some synergy, tying things together, and tying different groups together, and making this more interesting to people to use. So think about the name, and let us know what you want to do with that.
Is the meeting tomorrow with just HRG engineers or the park crew also? The department of HRG that develops and works with parks.
It won't be the parks people. It'll be
Okay.
Josh and I think maybe Mary on board as well to talk about the funding and everything. But it'll just be Josh, Tracy, and
Tracy's
Caitlin.
not coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Teams meeting. So.
Okay. I was thinking, if they had some ideas, they work with parks, bring us back 3 ideas and let us chew on them, but okay.
I do like Ferry House or Aqueduct. Derry has a canal park. There are a lot of different things associated with the Swadera and the canals in the area, but I don't think too many people can lay claim to a ferry house park. I think that would be a kind of an individualized thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll give it some thought. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How much did we pay Zegers to take the mulch?
I'd have to get you the exact figure. I think it was about $12,000 or $13,000 for last year. The stuff that we took out was, I paid less this year. I didn't have Ziegler haul this last portion. I had Doug Showpaul it. It was about 5,000 plus our trucks hauled a lot of it as well.
Thank you.
Yes. We're
Question.
yes, ma'am.
The park information that you put at Fry,
Yes.
can that get shared to social media so more people are aware of it?
Sure.
Especially this time of year, not a lot of people out walking.
Right. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay,
I can get the same rendering to Grace, and we can get
Okay.
that posted.
great.
Good idea.
I would like us to start to think of the council to restrict woody waste to just Middletown residents. Like that figure's huge that we're just paying people to take the mulch. That we can cut that down a lot if we just keep it to Middletown.
Hmm.
We talked about it before, but I'm just restating my opinion with it all.
Any other questions?
Since it's a MAP project, I'd like to make a motion to put the topic of the basketball court at Oak Hills on the agenda for the next workshop meeting.
Second.
Motion is second
On the workshop meeting, you said?
of the workshop
Yes.
meeting.
Thank you. We'll talk about that, yeah. Something that was brought up before and it was kind of just left out there.
That is still a topic for the residents there, and I promised I'd bring it up because they're asking.
No, that's good. So we have motion is second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
I'll make a note of that.
Number 14, Mara.
Mara, we had 2 days of interviewing for the child care coordinator last week. We did reach a decision. The job was offered, but she still has a little time to accept, and they're working through some questions that she had. So that's all I know.
Okay.
Is that for like the after school program that they do? Is that what that's for? The after school program?
Yeah, the before and after.
Before and after.
Hmm. Oh, and the summer camp.
In the summer camp. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
All right, thank you. 15, police. Hi, Dan.
Good evening, everybody.
Dan.
Sorry, forgot. I don't have much. I have no action items for the next meeting. Just some staffing updates. Officer Juarez is out of the FTO program. He's out riding alone. We're going to do testing as soon as we can this year so we can get somebody in the July 26th academy. I don't have a date yet. And the side agreements you approved at the last meeting have been presented to the union for their consideration. One of the goals of the department I put on the list here, I want to appoint a training manager. If you've, over the last couple of years, we've talked a little bit about how staffing has impacted the ability to train. We spent last year certifying several new officers as instructors, so we can train internally. And if I can get a volunteer to be a training manager, we can take that off my plate of scheduling training. We're going to actually meet with each instructor to present a plan to us of how they can have a bit more proactive training as opposed to just meeting requirements, which we've been limited to that somewhat based on staffing, and I'm hoping this year to be able to change that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the snow event that's coming this weekend. We're not sure what we're getting yet. I carry 2 phones. The app on my iPhone says we're getting 12 to 15 inches. The app on my Droid says 3 to 5. That's a lot different. I actually watched GAL before I came in here tonight, and they actually have a model where we get nothing, where it goes below us. So there are people that actually do live under rocks, and we found out that, you know, you think to yourself, how do you not know there's a snowstorm? So one of the officers in the department suggested when we have a major event like this, let's do some preemptive strikes. I put out a post tonight that basically said, hey, we're getting snow this weekend, pay attention. Check the snow emergency route, see if you live on one or not. Grace either did or will be putting the exact same one out on Facebook. I'll probably repost it on Thursday, depending on what the forecast is. But they basically said they have no idea what's going to happen. But there is a risk of a foot of snow, which causes quite a mess. I met with Rob and Matt today already, so we're working on making sure we're prepared and we have a plan to address it.
Great.
Any questions?
And thank you for putting that word out. Yeah, very helpful.
I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, when somebody says it, it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. You know, I mean, we live in a world where we're aware of everything try to be aware of everything that's going on. Not everybody does that, so trying to be helpful. The goal is to ticket and tow as little as possible. So we're gonna, again, you can't always predict. Like this weekend, we had no idea that was coming. But when we have an opportunity, we're gonna try to be a little bit more proactive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
Ah, got it. Got it. The last agenda item is 16.
Well, glad we're getting a new system.
Butterfingers. Sitting too long.
Maybe we should change it to council and mayor comments. Because
Makes sense.
everyone always speaks, so, or just comments, but item 16, anyone have anything? Did you want to say something about communication?
Yes, I was getting my stuff. Hold, please.
Hold, please.
So Ken, you read, about the grants and about how we got all of those grants, and you said you're gonna put out a statement about what they were for. I think that's great. I would actually like to see after every meeting, especially a workshop meeting, that information going out to the public, letting them know what it's all about. Like you did that one-page synopsis before.
Yeah,
Is
some
this
bullet
something-
points of what we talked about. Yeah.
Is this something you could do?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. We just have to be careful, posting documents that are working documents. Like, we talked about the, ordinance until council says, hey, we're gonna advertise it. You know, those are the things we don't wanna post, cause then they're subject to right to know, and they're working documents, they're not final documents.
Yeah, they're drafts that normally aren't subject to right to know.
But as
until
far
they
as
get
what we talked about, a synopsis, yes, we can do that.
Right, and like, when you do that, like, put maybe this up there again.
Yeah,
Say,
concept
look,
plans.
This is what we've,
Yep.
this is where it's going.
Sure.
Or a picture of the trail to say this is what that money is going to, is we're gonna have the trail going around and.
Right. Yep. Yeah, Grace and I talked about that today. Like, sometimes there's a long time in between, the next step with projects.
Right.
Like, you know, we put something out there when we first come up with the concept and go for, the grant, it's out there. But then you don't see it again, and it takes a long time to maybe get the result from the state that you've got money. Maybe that's when we get that notification in. We put it up again. Hey, we got money. Here's a reminder. Here's the concept. And then maybe there's a time delay before the contractor comes in. And then maybe we let them know again. Hey, you might see a contractor. Here's the plan that we talked to you about 6 months ago. This is what's happening.
Well, why I'm saying this is because there was another post on Facebook mean, it's only been discussed 6 months.
Right.
So if we put something out there, even like now, the sign's out there and that's great.
Mhm.
But if we bring something to their attention as it's going on,
Yeah, we can do that.
I think that would be helpful too. Keep everybody in the loop.
Mhm. Mhm. Anyone else have some thoughts about communication? All right, that's a good start.
All right. Will do.
I would like to, is there anyone else? I'm sorry. Well, I would like to see if there's any general interest in something that we've talked about before. We've brought it up before. I know Ian brought it up. Councilor Reddinger brought it up in the past. Some folks have brought it up again, and that is just a general code of conduct for council.
Yeah,
If,
I'm cool with that, yeah.
I'm sorry, Pat?
I'm okay with that, yeah, sure.
If we're interested, I wonder if we could direct staff to bring some samples forward of other councils' code of conducts that we could just review. We don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I actually had something that Ian had me do some years ago, then we just, for whatever reason, I don't know, it just didn't get traction.
We didn't move
So I
on
could
it.
look for that and give that to you and see what maybe some other people have as well.
Okay. That would be helpful. Anyone else?
Let me clarify, you want
Oh.
that for discussion at the next workshop then, so we can,
Yes,
okay, that'll give me a
that'd be
little
great.
time to work on
Mhm.
that and the other stuff, okay.
Anyone else? If not, oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
In terms of the snow, pending snow this weekend, just to reiterate what Public Safety Director Wright said, obviously, I'll be working with him and Matt and taking their advice very heavily, as this will be my first major storm. So just pay attention, and we will, get the word out as quickly as possible once we determine, how the storm's going to come in. And if there's a snow emergency, we will obviously let everyone know as soon as we determine that's what needs to happen. So, and also just to remind everyone, I will be having my coffee with the mayor on Saturday. We will also be having tea because I realize not everybody likes coffee, and some people might want to join me for a little tea party and some refreshments right here at Borough Hall from 10 to 12.
Second floor, right in these chambers, correct?
Yes. I'll put some signs out in the hallway for people that may not have ever been here to, tell them which way to go.
Okay. Any general public comment? Seeing none, we'll be moving to executive session and not returning. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.